something that I thought was a huge failure for me inspired somebody that is now a massive artist that is inspiring also millions of people. Our misses that we think are failures are really not.
¿Cómo están? Somos Mau y Ricky.
Vamos a pasar un buen rato.
Mau y Ricky nominado esta noche. 3-time nominees.
Because that is delicious, bro.
Es el disco que más ha llegado a rincones.
Do you feel like you've ever had to be fake with someone?
For sure. In this industry all the time, everybody's fucking pretending to be at the red carpet when they're there. You don't ever feel like you made it. We spend so much more time. One of my main motivations for doing music was making girls like me.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of You Versus You. If these conversations are inspiring you and are bringing value to your life, please make sure to subscribe, join the community, and don't forget to share with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Thank you for supporting the show. Now let's get back to our episode.
Welcome to You Versus You.
Thank you, bro.
You know what I mean? It's always a pleasure to have someone who is not only a colleague, but a friend. And I think we'll really enjoy this conversation because it's surrounding the things we talk about all the time, right? So to kick it off, does fame scare you?
Does fame scare me? Honestly, I feel like I've been around it my whole life. Entonces, I don't think it scared me. I've been around it always. So it's handling it, stuff like that hasn't been something that for me was shocking. I could see on some of my friends or artists that are starting out, and I'm seeing like their evolution and seeing how like they react to certain things or being recognized on the street or whatever it might be. And it's really cool to see, but I was kind of prepared for it because since I was born into a family where my dad was already, you know, obviously there was a switch when they started asking either me for pictures or they were waiting outside for me or something like that. But I've always been very conscious of it, and I know the responsibility that comes with it, and the cons. I've always been very conscious of the cons of fame too.
How was it growing up being a Montaner?
Dude, honestly, I don't know what it is like to be anybody else. My childhood was amazing. I don't have a recollection of it being very different than a regular kid's childhood, though I'm sure it was very different than a regular kid's childhood. I remember like things like my dad picking me up from school and that causing a commotion, you know? Or me, like I learned at an early age that like my dad's autograph would help me with my teachers, you know? So like I learned how to fake it. So I would like always promise autographs and not bother my dad with autographs. And I would just fake them in the bathroom. And I would be like, oh, my dad sent you this, you know? And it'd be a fake autograph that to stay in good graces with the teachers, you know?
Did that make you like want to be famous? Like seeing your dad and seeing the life experience that it gave you while seeing what it was doing to him, right? Because I think, you know, when we were shooting the show and I got to see so much of the archival footage, there's this part that we actually put on the show where your dad says, you know, one of the hardest things is to be away, right? So there's one of the cons, right? That you experience as a child, having your father also travel so much and do that. But did having him live this experience and have you see it kind of give you the bug that, hey, I like, and the bug and the pressure of saying I want to be famous?
Yeah, 1,000%. I would say, like seeing the effect with an audience, or what the connection between an artist and an audience. Seeing that made me wanna experience that for myself, for sure. And I knew the pressure that it was gonna be, because I've always been very passionate about our industry, you know? Like it hasn't just been like, oh, I love me because I love the music aspect of it, but I also like, I'm very passionate about, you know, this happened because of this, and like this person did this deal, and you know, like those little like ins and outs I really like. And creo que since I was very young and seeing my dad live that, I was definitely not only inspired to want to live it myself. I don't know. I really did not imagine my life doing anything else at all. So yo no soy bueno haciendo más nada, cabrón. O sea, literal. Feel like if I never had a plan B when I was growing up, you know, either. And seeing that, I knew that there was going to be a huge pressure because since I was, like I was saying, since I'd been seeing the industry, I knew that it's not very likely that sons of artists make it. Despite people's initial reaction is like, oh, it's easier for you since you were born into it isn't common that it works. Because at the end of the day, there's no real shortcuts to people's like taste or people's hearts or whatever, you know? So para mí, I felt the pressure, but there was no other choice. So I just had to power through whatever pressure that was or that weight of, I knew that if I found success or if I found my own, that pressure was gonna kind of fall off my shoulders, which I feel it has for me now. I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I'm in my own course with my brother and we've been able to achieve our things and I'm super proud of what we've done and I'm super anxious to keep growing but before it was definitely an insecurity of like, am I not gonna continue this legacy? Am I not gonna be a part of this? You know, that's kind of the pressure I felt.
And, you know, I think a lot of people share the pressure. I was just talking to someone today where they feel like, what if it's not for me, right? Mm-hmm. What if it doesn't work out? Yeah. And it starts creating this narrative of the story in their mind that that without it, they will not be happy. Do you feel that as you were growing up, as you were starting out and putting music out and maybe it wasn't the hit yet and it hadn't been successful, that pressure, that insecurity of like, what if it's not? Like, what if it doesn't work, right? Do you feel like that is part of the narrative that sometimes pops up in your life even now when you put out a song, you're like, what if it doesn't work? What if people don't accept it? What if tomorrow I can't get another hit?
Yes. I feel like the pressure of the result of what you're making is always, for me, paralyzing. I feel like before, when I didn't have anything to lose or hadn't found success yet, I had this blind faith in what we were doing. Like I knew it was going to work out. There's no plan B, even when it wasn't working out. And it didn't work out for a very long time. People think it was quick or whatever, but I started recording my first album when I was 15 years old. And my first song didn't become popular till I was 27. So that's like 12, 13 years of a struggle of like trying and doing interviews and people not wanting to take our call or not wanting to give us the opportunity or doing interviews to just pretty much try to embarrass us or try to like put us down. And I feel like those things for us were motivation. I kind of used that almost to prove people wrong in a way. And that helped me. There's like, I have a couple figures in my life that I don't necessarily recommend that to everybody, but for me, it was almost like, you will see, you know, there's a couple people that I've already healed those things with, but that drove me to go past that. What if it doesn't work out? It's like, no, it has to work out because they're going to see, they're going to know, you know? And I'm trying now in the career, since you mentioned like, how about now? Even though that I've achieved so much more than like before when I would have those doubts and nothing had happened, I almost constantly try to go back to that blind faith of like, it's going to work out. Why? Because it's amazing. And even if it didn't work out, you still had that like, I feel like after you find certain success, you set your bar up so high that everything that doesn't reach that bar, if you're not careful, is going to start feeling like a failure. Yeah, and you will constantly be feeling like you're not making the mark and not making the mark and not making the mark. And that started becoming, to me, a frustration because I look back in songs of mine that are huge pillars in my career and are huge. But while I was living that moment, I was feeling like it wasn't working because of outside noise or because I was looking at metrics too close and saying, well, my last song at this point was doing these many streams a day. So like, this is not doing well. So blah, blah, blah. And I look back now and I'm like, well, that song's not only like massive, but it's massive for my fans. And it's, you know, pero en el momento, when I look back when I was living Desconocidos, we had the top three song in almost every speaking country in the world. Y yo sentía that no estaba pasando. O sea, my feeling was like, fuck, we gotta keep grinding, bro. Like, we're doing less numbers than yesterday. Yesterday we did 50,000 more streams. Why today doing less? Y eso es una mierda, weón. That sucks, bro. That sucks. So it's like focusing on putting your attention on creativity and constantly creating. This year, I feel like, has been one of my least anxious years, 2025 so far. Because starting January 8th, I started getting into sessions every single day, pretty much. I've written, I think, like in the last almost 2 months, I think 35 to 40 songs. And my anxiety is like super, porque I was made for esto, cabrón, you know, creating.
It's interesting that you talk about this because there's a misconception in artists or people who are trying to enter our industry that the success will heal you.
Yeah.
Right? That the success will all of a sudden take everything away. But the thing is, we've been programmed that we must suffer to succeed, right? So it's almost like you, my career, I would accomplish these things and they felt like I was not enough. Like I needed something else. And even when went well, it was like, it went well. Now what's next? What's next? Because I got to stay on. Yeah. And the thing is that, you know, when you're first starting out, to your point, you have this North Star of encouragement that is led by that person doesn't want to let me in. That person said no to me.
Yeah.
But then you become successful and it's now like the public is saying that song doesn't work for me.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to swallow because it's the same fans that were loving your last song who just ain't loving this one or the one after or the one after. And all of a sudden you're like, man, I've released 5-6 songs. I released an album. No one cared. But it's this idea that because we have success or because we work so hard or because we're passionate, everything that comes with it is meant to make me feel good. And what I've learned in this journey of you know, healing myself is that I'm okay no matter what. And like you, I've started to live a better life experience because I understood that I don't have to suffer to succeed. Yeah. That the necessity to feel like something is successful is going to lead me back to the same answer, which is I'm not in control. Yeah. And most importantly, like today I did an interview and they were asking me in the interview, you know, how did it feel that like you won a Grammy or that you do this? And I think if I would have answered that last year, I would have been like, man, it's so exciting. I worked so hard. I deserved it. Today I realized that it's none of that. It's a gift. There's people that are more talented than you and I. There's people that work harder and longer hours than you and I. There's people that are doing 20 more sessions or 10 more business meetings, and they don't have what we have. And that is a gift, right? It's a gift. And so when I started to realize that everything in my life was a gift, it started to give me the sense that it's not about what I deserve. It's just I'm receiving something out of grace. Mm-hmm. And that grace allows me to enjoy it as if it was a gift, you know? Yeah. Because I don't think the ego is out of the way, the fear is out of the way. This is like, you gave me, you know, a piece of chocolate. I'm eating that good because I didn't even have to pay for it. Yeah. That feels a lot better. Yeah. But it really is something that again, we've been so programmed to have this mentality that in order to be successful, we have to suffer. And we've, in this industry, because it's such a lifestyle industry, we say, well, if you're not like working all the time and touring all the time and doing all this stuff, like you're not going to be this.
You're not doing enough.
You're not doing enough. And we know multiple artists who put a lot of money, who put in a lot of time, who don't sleep, who live the lifestyle, who after having hits can't catch another hit.
Mm-hmm. No, y yo creo que aparte de eso, I've had to realize too that when I was starting out in the first 13 years that I thought that nobody gave a fuck about what we were doing. And I'm talking about like not even an ounce of like, oh, it sparked a little bit of a fire. I'm talking about like when we would we would do video blogs, like recording shit, like going to an amusement park or going to the recording studio and we record like, and I thought nobody gives a fuck about this. I released songs that I thought nobody cared about. I was almost like embarrassed of those like misses, you know? When everything started working out, I would then start running into people in our industry and artists that are friends of mine now that are incredibly fucking successful and massive that sat me down and sang me those songs from beginning to end and told me, bro, I would wait for your video blogs to come out. And when the video blogs would, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? You watch that? Yeah, and I can sing you the song. And he would sing me the song from beginning to end. And I was like, I don't know, you're thinking that something that I thought was a huge failure for me inspired somebody that is now a massive artist that is inspiring also millions of people. So a lot of times our misses that we think are failures are really not. So there's songs of mine that I think didn't do that well. Y de una vez yo la descarto y digo, and then I'll be with somebody and they'll be like, yo, my favorite song of yours is this one. And I'll be like, oh, really? If I just ran into this random person in an airport that said this to me, there's at least a couple more thousands of people that believe this song is their favorite, you know? My favorite album of Coldplay's is their least selling album of them all. That's the one that has me spending thousands of dollars to go watch them play.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the beauty, I think, about creating art. And sometimes once you start having success and the pressure kicks in and the money kicks in and the need of having the applause of people kicks in, you forget that at the core of it, it was just the love of art, right? It was the love of something you could do and say, and what that did for you to heal you and what that would do to other people. And but sometimes it's hard. Like the environment around our industry causes it to feel envy, to feel, you know.
Because that drug's delicious, bro.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And once you have it, you're like, oh my God, what is this? And you get jaded about what your initial motivation behind all this was, because you have this new thing that you're like, oh no, what? This is giving me this feeling of blah, blah, blah. And you almost like lose track of why you were doing this in the first place. You know?
How do you separate being Ricky the artist and Ricky the human being that music is a part of, but is not necessarily the famous guy walking outside? Or do you feel like you're just one living?
Honestly, I don't know how to. I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know that I can. I don't know that I'm any other way, you know? Yeah. I feel like it's funny you asked that, because I wouldn't know how to begin to turn it off, because I really do think about this all the time and I'm on all the time, but I feel like it's part of me too, you know? It's not like I'm in a movie, you know? Though I do, and I have a lot of colleagues that I believe, you know, are in a movie, you know? And I can see how they could turn off that movie and be like, oh no, bro, we're all good, you know? Like, and their personality like comes after me. I feel like I'm just myself, you know? So I don't know how to turn it off. I feel like I have to for the sake of many things. My marriage, o sea, gracias a Dios, mi esposa is as much of a workaholic as me, but more than that, she sees that this is not like I'm trying to make more money. You know, it's not only that. You know, of course, I want to make more money all the time. Pero no es que babe, I just need to get this other. It's just a need, a necessity I have that. Why are you in the studio till 3 a.m.? Because, cabrón, o sea, porque it's good for my mental health, because I feel like if I don't finish the song right now, it's going to leave my mind and it's going to land in somebody else's guitar, you know? Like, I have this going on right now because I also feel like if I'm inspired, I need to grab all of that if there's ever a time in my life where I don't feel inspired, you know, have all of that. It's impossible to explain that it's such a part of me that I wake up, think about it, I fall asleep, I think about it. So to answer your question, I don't separate it. I like, your friend is Ricky, but it's the same guy that's on the stage, you know? It's not like, oh, but I know the real. It's like, yeah, the real me is still that same guy that goes on stage. I don't know if that's because I was born into this, and it's always kind of been like, I didn't really have to do a switch at one point or feel like, yo, what the hell is this? Like, I was expecting the stuff that no sé, cabrón. I don't know.
You mentioned even like the concept of friendship, right? So I want to touch on that, because I think it's interesting dynamic when you have friends within our business, right? Because sometimes they're your own competitors, right? Sometimes they're the same ones that envy you. How do you classify in your life the difference between a colleague and a friend, and how do you deal with the understanding of both, right? Because essentially, when you have a friend in our industry, we tend to have conversations about things we need.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the process of we've been programmed. I always say that we've been programmed in this business to have linear relationships, right? Relationships where it's like, you give me something, I give you something. And so you're the A&R of this label. I only come and have a friendship with you when we are having to have that conversation.
Because we're making the album, and
that's it, right?
Those 2 months.
And then there is what I believe is truly powerful is, circular relationships where we are building a friendship, and then upon that we create. But my history in our business tells me that those are far and few in between because everybody looks at it in a very transactional way. Do you feel that you have a good sense on, okay, this is someone I want to build a friendship, and what are the things you look for in building a friendship with someone in this business? And when you're like, oh, this is 100% a colleague, and do you feel like you act like that too, right, to someone else?
When I was growing up, I heard this a lot. People would be like, oh, they're only friends with you because of this, or they're only, you got to be careful because people are, and I don't know if I had that filter always, because also I was born into this, that I could almost tell people's intentions and was very receptive from the beginning. So there's a lot of artists in our industry that I consider colleagues and that I get along with. There's some that I don't get along with. And there's very few that I consider my friends. Like, I think maybe I can count them in one hand or two tops. I don't even think two. I think just one hand. But that are true people that I've connected with in a human level, that maybe we've worked on a song together before, maybe we haven't. We more than likely have. And maybe, or either it hasn't come out, or it came out a couple years ago and we haven't worked together again, or we've written several songs that they haven't come out. But if I, like you're saying, when you have a true relationship with somebody, and if this is my passion, I'm going to want to share that with people that also have that, But yeah, bro, I can count them with one hand. And I feel like it's an energy thing, when somebody's like, hey man, what's up? And it's fake, or that it's, you see it all, man. Our industry's so smoke and mirrors and fake people that when you find somebody that's like for real, the energy is just different.
Do you feel like you've ever had to be fake with someone?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. In this industry, all the time. In what sense? Fuck, maybe I don't want to be in that interview with that reporter that 6 months ago was talking shit about me, but like now is that, or fuck, I don't want to shake the hand of this executive that like fucking treated me like shit in the last label I was on, but now is in this one and is pretending to be my friend, or the guy that didn't believe in me when before anything worked out, and once it did, it's like, oh, we did it. So I've had to be like, oh yeah, bro, we did it, and then back be like, these fucking guys, But I think it's part of unfortunately, it's part of the industry we're in. You can't be like, especially when you're coming up, you can't be like, oh, you're a fake ass person. It's sure I'd like to have those balls, but I can't tell you that that's the case. I feel like everybody in this industry is like pretending to everybody's fucking pretending to be at the red carpet when they're there. Nobody fucking wants to be there. Nobody wants to be doing any of those interviews because you don't think that they matter, because you don't think that they are actually going to be changing your career at all. But you're there because, we have to, we can, blah, blah. But everybody's pretending like they want to be there.
Have you ever been betrayed to where you feel like that marked you?
Many times. Yeah. In this industry, I mean, that's the thing about the friendships in this industry, that you have to, one, realize that not everybody's like you. So if you give your hand out and expect that the person you gave the hand out to, when they have the opportunity to give you their hand, they will or they won't. Like you can't be expecting people to react the same way that you do to things. So I've been hurt by people in this industry that I thought were either my friends and then decided to not this, or didn't believe in, or would say, oh, I believe in this, and at the end of the day didn't. So I feel like the one I can pinpoint the most right now, I remember when I was coming up and I was starting to, my career was as a songwriter was starting to get a little bit of a buzz, you know? But as an artist, I've been attempting it for longer, but nothing had happened. And I was dating somebody that was also in the industry. And that's always tricky when you're dating somebody that's in the industry and that's also, you know, trying to make it and you're, you know, in the same. And I started feeling from her team at the time, I started feeling like they thought that I wasn't worthy of either co-writing or even being together, you know, like they wished I was a little bit more famous. It's like, you know, like they wish I was, I bet you wish I was this guy, you know, that's like kind of like the thoughts that I was starting to get. And I remember that she wasn't like, or they don't want her to write with me or that's kind of like the feeling that I had. And that started really like fucking me up, man, like my self-esteem and, you know, and I kind of made it my life mission to prove them wrong in a way, you know, and be like, I'm going to be so big that you're going to be wrong about me, you know? So that was really hurtful for me at a time. And de hecho for my brother too, that knew that I was going through that as well, was a tough time to see me go through that because it was hard for me. But I was able to heal it with time. I was able to heal it with maturity and kind of work too, you know, like after things started happening for me that kind of like healed. I was like, okay, you know, but that felt to me like some of the most painful when I wanted the help of somebody that was kind of like a little bit above me at a certain time, and I wanted it and didn't get it, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, that really hurt. So that did shape me because I do think that played a big part in me grinding to the point of almost like locura, cabrón, de no descansar, de no pararle ni un segundo, not 1 second, bro. We would write every single day from 11 a.m. to 6 a.m. Todos los días, cabrón. Y yo me despertaba y me iba de regreso al estudio. Me iba a dormir, me despertaba y me iba de regreso al estudio si no me quedaba a dormir ahí. And it was all with the thought of, I'll prove this person wrong. I'll prove this person wrong. And it was also el presidente of my first label. When they let us go, I was like, you're gonna remember. I remember the first Grammy after shit had already blown up. I saw him and he came up to me and he said, I knew this was gonna happen. And that shake is all it took for me. I was like, okay, I healed this. You know?
Do you feel like you really healed it?
Sí y no, because in a way I feel like that's will always in my, I mean, hopefully not always, but in my story, I feel like part of my battle, because given the family that I'm in, my trauma as a kid or my trauma as a young adult was always proving to others that I'm worthy, you know? So it's like, no, yeah, my dad's amazing, but I'm also great, you know? Or like, yeah, but I'm also this. So I feel like I healed those vínculos, like those things, but I will always tend to have to be in that constant battle between authenticity and not giving a fuck about what people think about me. But secretly also, I want to be authentic, but I want you guys to really fuck with how authentic I am. You know?
That inner struggle, I mean, that you versus you, right, is really interesting because I could share that dynamic in myself where no matter what I was accomplishing, I always felt like someone once told me that I wasn't enough. Yeah. And what happened is that filter daily affected how I processed information, right? So I could be with a girlfriend and the girlfriend would say certain things and it was like,
yeah,
I have to prove to you. Do you not see all the things that I do for you? Or at work, when you feel the necessity to feel like people are giving you, and what happens is, at least in my life, it's caused me to make a lot of emotional decisions based on that filter.
Yeah.
And that's why I ask if you feel like you've healed it, right? Because that trauma tends to be the center point of the battle between yourself with yourself, right? And it'll come up in the insecurities that it provides, right? The stories that you tell yourself, and even when you're making music, it goes from creating to sometimes like, I don't know if this ever happened to you, where you make a song that you think is amazing. You like hear it in the studio, you're excited. You're like, this is a hit, this is a hit. You know, everybody loves to say this is a hit.
Yeah.
This is a smash. And then you go, and then there's a small little part of you that says, what if it's not?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that little sense of doubt, what it creates, I think, energetically, to start creating a story in your mind that there's a possibility that it's not. And there's a possibility that you're not worth it. There's a possibility that all the things you're doing to try to prove people are not going to be enough to feel worth it. And what I've found in my experience working with artists, and my experience, even in my self-experience, is that very quickly you start digging a hole that you're not even seeing you're digging, right? Because you start putting the value of who you are in having to prove the person wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And having to prove to someone else who has their own trauma, their own things, that you're right and that you always had it. And in it, once it happens, you still feel the emptiness. You still feel like, no, I still got to prove something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Never ends.
And that's the part that I think has been the biggest discovery of my life. I feel like I discovered Indiana Jones and I discovered gold was the I am okay. I am enough. Nothing that happens in my life is going to change that. It's just a story that I'm telling myself. Mm-hmm. And I learned this because I went into a session with a spiritual leader named Don. This is the first time I met him. Incredible writer too. He has a book called The Uncharted Journey, which has been very transformative in my life. But I'm in this first session with Don and Ish. And as we're going through the session, Don has Parkinson's, so he's barely saying anything, right? Like, but after he hears me talk, he says, have you ever considered that you're okay? That you're already enough? That nothing is going to change that? And that the need and the feel, or the necessity to feel wanted or praised or enough, causes you to chase down a rabbit hole that never ends. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you have one of those moments where I was like, and then Ish, who's his mentoree, says, Don, every single year since I've known you, I always ask you how you're doing. And you always say, you know, kindly blessed and mentally enlightened. And I just want to ask you how you feel right now, because your body is failing you. And he's saying this, generally asking him in tears, right? Because he's seeing his friend
deteriorate,
you know, hit that point. And Don turns and he goes, my costume is failing, but my mind is intact.
Wow.
That was the last time he passed away.
Wow.
Right? And that was his last session. And to me, it was so impactful because it was the first time that I understood that the life experience we are living is a story that we are telling ourselves. Like our necessity, our fear, our contractions, where our body goes into shock. It's our mind believing the things that we are telling it. And we consistently talk to ourselves. But we watch out respectfully, as you said, And we lie to other people like, yeah, man, we shake your hand, we do all these things to try to have a good image in front of that person. So that person doesn't think, oh, Ricky's an asshole, right? We act fake in order to please somebody else's necessity to look at us in perfection. Yet we don't do that to ourselves.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, instead of speaking to us in a positive manner and saying, hey, I actually, even if this song doesn't work, it's actually fucking cool. I like it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? Hey, you're more than enough. We don't do none of that.
No,
right?
And, you know, we kind of feel like we're lying to ourselves in a way when we do that. No sé si te pasa a mí. A veces like I have those thoughts and sometimes I'm like, I'm just telling this to myself to make myself feel better, you know? Y uno se empieza a meter these lies and lies. I'm sure you've accomplished things in your life. I've accomplished things in my life that I've lied to myself to the point where like I find a way of telling myself I didn't do it. You know, like I filled out a stadium that I've always dreamt of doing, you know, El Luna Park. And the day that they told us we sold it out, like my feeling was still like, yeah, but it's not the same because like we sold it out, like Ponte, when we did the Gran Rex, it was the pandemic. So because of the pandemic, we did this, people came. So that's why, and you like start justifying like what you've done these things that you've dreamt of your entire life, but this insecurity is talking. So no, I feel like I'm still working on healing a lot of those things. Porque no era ni siquiera approval from my parents. My parents always told me I was amazing. But the whole trauma of the whole situation is when I tell myself like, no, that I feel like it's when my parents would tell me, no, you're amazing. And I wouldn't feel the same thing from outside people of my family. I would feel, you're just saying that because you love me. But like, they're not fucking with my shit right now, you know? And like, they don't think I'm great. You're saying I'm great, but I just put out this album when I was 15 years old and nobody really listened to this. Entonces uno siente que cuando uno dice, no, marica, pero todo está bien, you're just fucking saying that to yourself. Because
and the crazy thing is you're not really identifying the true lie. The true lie is that you're doubting yourself. Your mind has, like one of the things I've learned about being a father is that my daughter has an ability to solve her issues by just identifying that is the issue. But as adults, even when your brain is trying to identify it, right? Your brain is generally telling you, you got this. It's going to be easy. Your subconscious and your trauma kicks in. It's like, no, it's not. You remember that one time that you didn't do it good and people didn't like it?
You've been doing this shit for fucking ever, bro. Like,
and that to me is the internal battle that made me want to launch this podcast, because one of the most transformative things I've done in my life and career has nothing to do with any of my accomplishments in music or media. Has everything to do with the fact that I said, I am going to understand the inner workings of my mind in order to free it as much as possible. And one of the things I learned, I lost my grandmother at the same time that I lost one of my very close friends who also helped me get started in this business. I used to sleep in his couch in New York and really believed in me, right? Is I learned that you could very quickly die in your own prisons. And we all have some, right? We all have these prisons in our lives that we created from our so-called trauma, from our fears, from these things. And we believe that all the time. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're like, I don't like salads. And then you don't eat salads your whole life because at some point you decided you didn't like salad, and you're missing out on all the greatness of salads. Just like I was that kid. Like I was like, chicken nuggets and fries. You know what I mean? But like these prisons, and what I realized that the real mission in life, in order to truly live a fruitful life, is to unlock those prisons in your life. And in order to do it, and in order to come into a place where you can start recognizing that, is the process of starting to understand, to me, what I think are three incredible principles. First, the universe is in divine order, right? Everything in your life, including every good and every experience that you've passed, your soul specifically chose your life experience. So everything that you're living through is meant to be a lesson. It chose to come in your life experience to learn those lessons. And when you think about the things that happen in our lives, right? When you say, oh, it was pandemic in order to sell it out. It's like God had to create a pandemic in order to give you your dreams. That's how divine and perfect this is, right? Like there's this divine order of your universe. So it teaches you that the only thing that is not in order is your mind. And that you've lied to yourself before. And that your mind and your decisions have failed you before. So there is a high level chance that the story you're telling yourself is just fake, a story. Yeah. So that was the first one. That was the one to me that I was like, okay, so I have a filter. My filter is made out of my fears and my traumas, and I'm processing all my information through that filter. So I need to start learning to identify when it's my filter and when it's reality. Then second, I realized that as much as I want to control life, as much as I want to have life by the horns, how they say, right? And drive the seat and have this need that we've been taught that if you're not driving, if you're not working hard, if you're not doing this, if you're not this, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to accomplish your dreams. You're not. And so we out of fear, we grab the steering wheel because we're like, no one's going to drive it but us. And I started to understand that if the universe is in divine order, I don't control anything. Because God forbid I can die at any moment, right? And so the true understanding that I don't control anything frees me to understand, well, then how do I experience this ride called life? Well, maybe I can experience it as the passenger.
Yeah.
And if so, then my only job is when I'm in contraction, when I'm in anger, when I'm in fear, when I'm in any of that, is to stay still. Which has been the complete opposite of what we've been taught, right? Because we've been taught while we're in that moment, grab the freaking wheel. The car's going to spin out. You're going to save it, right? And what I've seen happen in my life, especially over these past 2 years, is that when I relinquish control and I stand still, the universe, the creator, drives the car to a better destination than I would have.
Yeah, for sure.
And that if my job is to be still enough so I can listen, then I can have the courage to move forward. Yeah. And do the act, do the time, do the hard work, do whatever else it is. And these two things have started to really free up my mind. And it's the reason why I launched this podcast, because I realized that it wasn't the amount of money, it wasn't the amount of success, it wasn't the praise of people, it was me. And the bus stopped here. And if I wanted to transform my life for real, I needed to look in the mirror. But looking in the mirror is scary, bro.
Yeah.
Like having to face yourself in the reality of your own bullshit.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Super scary.
Because you start realizing you're full of shit.
Okay, dices soltar el control, like letting go of control. I pray every morning. My prayer is not my will, and God, whatever you have for me today, let me be open to receive it. And once I do that prayer every day, I understand that whatever happens that day is meant to happen, and I handle it differently than if I would, thinking that that's happening to me versus for me, you know?
Yeah.
And yo lo traduzco a, God, I don't want what this person has and that I see that I really wish I wanted or I could have. Pero lo que sí quiero es todo lo que sí tienes para mí. Everything that you have for me in my plan, that I want all of it, you know? And completely surrender to his plan, surrender to knowing that we are living a human experience, like you're saying, and that comes with happy moments, trials, tribulations, sad moments, angry moments, moments of frustration, you know? But we have to be grateful to be able to feel that whole ride. Because it's not, in what I believe, it's not the end. Like, my soul's gonna live on forever, you know? It's like, but this experience that I'm living on here, we weren't made to be pasándola mal and having a bad time and like grinding to like, made it. You don't ever feel like you made it. We spend so much more time on the way to the destination and on the route to the destination and on the destination that it is so important to also design el camino. the way, it's not just about like, okay, once I do this, that's when I'm like, okay, no, if doing this is going to take me 20 years to like feel like these 20 years yo la quiero estar pasando de maravilla, not 20 years pasándola como el carajo. No, I want to be a passenger like you're saying, but let's take the scenic route. Why? Because I want to be able to look out the window and look at the ocean and the waves crashing. Oh, but you're going to take 2 or 3 extra days. But at least I get to stop, look at the sunset, say, God, thank you for allowing me to see it from up here. I would have never seen it from up here. You know?
One of the critiques that, or one of the clapbacks, I like to call them, from people when I speak about that specific subject, is they say, well, yeah, of course. I mean, you're Ricky Montaner. It must be freaking nice. Right. You don't got to wake up and do construction work. You got to work up here and be an immigrant and not sure if what your resident status is. And oh yeah, of course, but you're Lex. Like, oh, you have this big company, and I mean, shoot, it must be so nice. You have all those cars and And I was sharing this with our guest last time, which is, it took me getting to the things I thought I wanted to understand that it was none of the things I wanted. Mm. And what I mean by that is that through this process, I've learned that we've been programmed to look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because we look at things as good and bad, right? I was reading yesterday, actually, Don's book, and he was saying, what if you look between good and bad, and instead you look between love and fear? You judge things as bad because you judge them from fear. You judge things as good because you judge them from love. Mm. And the key is that the whole experience is love, right? Like the middle of the fire, if you're sitting in the fire and you're going through a painful situation, you're going through a hardship, how do you get your mind to say, I can feel comfortable here, right? I can, in my mind, while I'm in the fire, I'm actually driving down the PCH with the ocean, right? The lesson or the work, as I call it, is in learning to change the perspective so that your experience is all love, because it truly is, right? It's how you choose to look at it, but it's completely all love. Problem is, we tend to look at it from fear, and we tend to. And I love that phrase that he said, because I had never looked at it in that way of like, we look at something bad because it's fear. Like, we say that person is bad because they made us afraid. Mm. Like, there's something in that person that rubbed us the wrong way, and it's easier to judge that person than look at us. Because if we look at it with love, we'll say, well, that person who just did that to us, they're going through their own stuff. Yeah. They got their own issues, not just my issues. I'm not the only soul in the world, but it's so hard to do that in the midst of that situation. And that really leads me to talking about family, right? Because I think sometimes in relationships, especially with the other sex, where they are very different, genetically than we are as men, what would you say it's been for you? Now you're married for how long? 2 years, 3 years?
3 years almost. Actually, 3 years already.
What would you identify as like the hardest part of being married?
I will say 2 things. One, the hardest thing, but this isn't hard for me, as like putting my wife's interest before mine is easy for me. Like, I know the treasure that I have in the woman that chose me, and that I am not worthy of her having chosen me, and I am conscious of that. So, para mí no es, but I feel like it was before I was married, it was changing my whole DNA, bro. Like, my entire being was wired, my whole personality was wired around the chase of women and la conquista and down to like, one of my main motivations for doing music was making girls like me. So I knew that writing songs or playing guitar,
you're gonna be in.
That would make me. That would give me a chance in high school that I didn't have because I didn't play in the basketball team or in the whatever, So after having met my wife, realizing like, you got to change your whole motivation behind why you perform, why you write music, why you exist, so seeing myself in the mirror and seeing like, oh shit, bro, like you're a mess. Like sex and that to me, like I had a very toxic relationship with it porque para mí era like equivalent to adrenaline and like sneaking around and like blah, blah, blah. So like when something became serious, I was like, okay, cabrón. So you got to rewire your whole brain. So that was, I guess, a moment of challenge during the pandemic of like, shit, let me rewire my shit to see if I could, that's the hardest thing. But putting her interest and knowing that it's not all about me and it's about what we're building, for me is easy because when I met her, I knew that there was no way that I would ever find anybody better than her, or beautiful. That there's no way. She's perfect.
Do you want kids?
I do eventually.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where like if she wants kids, I'm down to have kids. I'm afraid of my life changing and my dynamic changing. I'm so in love with what I do and my job, and I'm obsessed with creating, and that stepping away from that to have a kid, and I've seen how it affects my siblings too. I don't know if I'm ready for my life to change like that yet. Hopefully one day I will be. But por ahora, I like the dynamic, or at least I'm appreciating the dynamic, and me and my wife are very conscious about it. So that's why she like leaves for 2-3 weeks. A lot of times people are like, yo, why are you guys so far away? Well, because I want to be here writing songs, and she wants to be over there doing una vaina de actuación, or like a show or un taller or lo que sea. Go do it, and I'll do this. And in the future, when we have to start doing those sacrifices, yeah, sure. But we're both not ready for our lives to
pivot in that.
Yeah,
way.
and we want our marriage to just uplift and kind of support each other's dreams. I don't want her to ever be like, oh, I really wanted to do this back in the day, but I didn't because of you, or I didn't because we got married.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the things maybe women struggle with a lot, right? Which is just, at least in my conversation with my own, in my own relationship with my own girl, as well as with other friends of mine that work, that do these things. It's just like their fear of, if I focus on my man, if I focus on having kids, like, then what about me at some point, right? And the truth is, I understand where it comes from, because at some point the kids leave, and, you get old and time flies, and you don't know what's going to happen. But do you feel that you would want your kids to follow in your footsteps the way you did?
I've never thought of that. I feel like I'd try to, if he did and wanted to, or she did, I would put in my effort to make them fall in love with the creating of it. And I don't know how you do this, but like, and I know that there's people that do think like this. I was wired in a certain way that like the love for the music is amazing, but I also wanted to perform really well. So when you have that and you do something that's like so pure to your heart, but you also want it to perform, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. So, but once you get those scores, it's like, oof, but that only means you're going to get your heart broken again and again and again. So that, like, being a musician or being an artist is painful. It's painful in those sense. And I know I speak, and you said it like, oh, it's easy for you to say when you're Ricky Montaner. I know I speak from a place of privilege, because not only, I do know that I'm not here for free. I've broken my back to make it. But I also know I'm so lucky, because there's a million people that break their backs twice as much, or that are way more talented than me. So I'm here like on my knees, like, thank you, God, for allowing me to do this, or allowing lightning to strike this many times in my family. Yeah, I know how lucky we are. So when I zoom out and I realize like, oh wow, 17-year-old me would think like I made it, like I'm set.
Yeah.
But the Ricky right now feels like I'm just starting out. So I would tell my kids, like, I would find a way, once I figure it out myself, to try to focus them on the beauty that this craft has, and creating songs, and that the results, I feel like before, we've always been so empeñados to show our success with like the dollar amount in our bank account or the number of streams or the number of this or the number of plaques, and then, which is all very nice. And I've been there and I've had that and it feels amazing. But I feel now the new generations of artists that I've seen come up, they're so into like their community and the music that they do and building their thing that gives me hope in the future generations of musicians or like my future kids, that they could build their own micro universe where it could be humongous or it could be small, but the gift is being able to live from this.
Yeah.
You know, my expectations were always just so high, and I was wired in such a way that I was born and my dad was filling up stadiums. So yo no descanso hasta que eso no sea mi realidad de día a día. And I filled up a couple, but I want to fill up every single one I could think of, kind of shit, you know? Eso es. I wish I could take that part away for my kids.
Why?
Because they'll be happier. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. You can't control. Yo pasarla mal is not going to make me reach the stadium quicker. It's like you're saying. You know, like there's artists and friends of mine that have not been like half as stressed as I have, that fill up stadiums doing their thing. They were doing their thing. And while we're all like ruling the world and like on top of it, we're like, oh, what are these cats doing? They were building their thing rock by rock. And that shit's like their own sustained thing, and their mental health is a certain way. I mean, I'm speaking without knowing if they also have a hard time, because we all fucking do. At the end of the day, you realize like in podcasts like this, why they help so much and help so many people is because you listen to them and you're like, oh wait, he's feeling that, he's reached that, and I'm here, and oh wait, so there's some sort of answer that is not this.
Have you ever tried just the exercise of letting that part of you go? The part of like having to chase that with everything?
Yes,
like,
I've tried it. I feel like I am getting better at it each time. I also feel like I'm really bad at it. Porque I feel like it comes down to back to that trauma of like wanting to be accepted. That since I was very young, I've been around industry people all my life. So when you are sitting in front of A&Rs and record execs and you haven't built anything yet, they give you their opinions, you know, and they give you their, oh, I think this, I think it's not connecting because of this. I think it's not connecting because of this. So the different things that they would say all would point to things that had to change about myself in order for other people to like me, you know? So it's like, no, the thing is that you were born in such like, people know that you were born in a household that blah. So like, we got to make you connect with people that are not from that lifestyle. So you got to dress more like this, or we got to do cornrows on Mao, because that's going to make him look more urban to the blah, blah. So so my whole life was almost like, okay, so what do I got to change about myself this time for people to like, oh, baggy jeans? All right, so we got to do baggy jeans, even though I didn't want to do fucking. So the second stuff wasn't working, and stuff worked, doing something that we wanted to do and blah, blah, blah. It's almost like we do it the way I want to do it, or not. Like, you know, if I have to change anything about myself to make it work, then it's not genuine to me. So like that battle is a battle for authenticity, but it's also it could be your worst enemy, because maybe sometimes like the thing is like, oh, maybe you should put this drum beat on it. I'm not going to fucking do that because like, that's not what blah, blah, and I'm selling my soul. And sometimes like you're not selling your soul if you have the drums come in 15 seconds earlier in the song. But since I have this trauma of wanting to be authentic, but also successful, but also my way, but also it's like, fuck, you're putting so many fucking rules to this.
It's one of the parts that especially in a career being a manager, that I think have been the hardest struggle with building artists, is that, you know, you want to give enough freedom for the artists to do what they feels organic to them, while having the opportunity to guide them, because you've also have seen and have the experience in working an artist and the things that sometimes the artist doesn't want to do, like the red carpets and right. But I think it's interesting dynamic that you explain it as an artist, especially as someone who's now achieved success, because I know that there's a lot of artists out there struggling with those decisions, right? Struggling between one, being themselves, right? Like I find, for example, a lot of the female artists that have come play me music, they all try to be super sexy, super, because it's like, if I'm not sexy, if I'm
it
not,
doesn't connect.
it's not gonna connect, right? And they struggle with finding that identity of who are they lyrically outside of doing a song about dancing in the club, right? And at the same time, I've seen artists in the other way, which is artists that feel like I have it all together, my stuff is the best, no one's gonna help me, and then they do not listen, don't take a team effort, a team approach out of the same thing, fear. And so back to what we were talking earlier, I think those are the moments where you have to start identifying what is my filter and what's actually reality. You know, that's been something that I've just doing that as like a first exercise for someone has really helped me in my journey to control how I look at the world. Because every time that I feel contracted, like if I feel stressed or like somebody pissed me off, I'm like, okay, somewhere here there's a lie. Yeah. Somewhere here I'm feeding myself something I shouldn't be feeding myself, because my body should not be contracting like that.
What's making me react like this? What's triggering this? There's
something here, right? So there's something here that it's either a lesson or something here I'm lying to myself. So I pause myself before trying to judge the situation. And obviously, listen, no one's ever arrived. Like there's times you react and you say fuck this shit, but for the most part, it's probably the exercise that has helped me heal the most has been to pause myself and ask that versus question in my life in order to intake the information, because I was so used to as well, like especially when you run a company that somebody tells you something, you're just ready to attack, like ready to like, how can you tell me that? Don't you know I'm Lex Borrero, I'm the CEO? And it was like, wait a second, okay, what are they truly? And sometimes I would even text back, and I had misread what they said because I read it in such an emotion, right? You read it in the, like you go blind, you go fight or flight
that's
mode.
That's our ego, bro.
100%.
Ego.
And that again, that versus to me has been really important in also identifying the lies I tell myself, you know? Because we, as many truths as we tell ourselves a whole lot of lies. Yeah. A whole lot of stories, a whole lot of narratives.
Mainly.
Yeah. And we believe it, and our body believes it. And once you start triggering and understanding that, you understand when your body's triggered. Yeah. And that normally tends to be a sign something's not right. Let me ask you this. Have you ever thought of, you know, what it would be like, your career experience, if Mao came to you and just said, hey, I'm done?
The only time I thought that was when he started dating Sarah, his wife. When they started dating, he had never really fallen like that for anybody before. So he would like leave sessions early to go hang out with her because like blah, blah, or like we weren't really making money at like when they started dating at all. So we would work all the time, and I'd feel like there was like a pressure of like, yo, you're like out all the time or you're not making any money. Like, what's this, you know? So there was a moment when stuff hadn't picked up with Mauricky that I thought he was going to come to me and say like, yo, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not going to. But it lasted a couple months, and I had a thing. My brother's been my right hand my entire life. So when he started dating her, and he would sometimes choose, no, bro, I have to go home. I can't stay on the session. You choosing her over me, this that we've been building for 15 years?
Lie.
Yeah.
Alert.
Lie. Ego hurt, you know? So it's like, that was, she's going to convince him. That's just what it is. I got to start preparing. She's going to tell him that he can't do this anymore. He's going to listen to her. So he's going to start, you know, selling cars at some dealership, and I'm going to be here by myself. I thought of all of that. But honestly, I feel like part of the reason why we've been able to stick around for so long is 1000% the fact that I've had him and that he's had me, to rely on each other on when stuff is not going great, and rely on each other when stuff is going great. This is a career where this plays tricks on you like we've been saying the entire the entire podcast. And if I have my brother and I'm like, yo, I'm feeling this, it's not always that you're in the same down part of the wave, you know, mentally speaking. A lot of times, like, I'm here and he's maybe here, and I could talk to him. He's like, no, bro, like, remember this? And then when he's feeling low, he could talk to me, and it doesn't feel like it's somebody from the outside saying it, because it's as much my thing as it is his thing. It's as much my face as, you know, sometimes a manager will tell you, and it's like, bro, but like, it's my face out there, or it's this, or sometimes it's the fear of like, I've failed with ideas of mine that haven't worked out, but that hurts less than when you had your feeling and then you took somebody else's advice and did that and that failed. You feel like a bitch, you know? So it's fear of feeling like a bitch. It's fear of this. It's fear of... So having my brother has been the most fun part. The most fun part, for sure.
Well, have you ever thought, or what would you feel like if it all ended today?
I've thought about it. It's one of my biggest fears is like knowing that, and I'm sure it's one of his too. So we've built everything together, that the day that one of us is not there, or that one decides, it's like, fuck, like, what does that mean for everything we've built it's going back to surrendering to God's plan for our life. If God puts certain desires and you wake up every morning and you tell God, align my heart with yours and my plan is done. I want your plan in my life. You start seeing everything. Even if my brother would tell me, brother, I'm done with this. I don't want to sing anymore. I'd be able, though it'd be painful and it'd be this and that, after zooming out, I'd be like, okay, this is part of God's journey he has for me, you know, and this is what he has prepared for me. Do I want that to happen? No. Do I want to be on stage with my brother on my side? No. Do I have projects that I work on my own? Absolutely. So does he, you know? And we've built enough of a infrastructure in our company where we understand that if we're able to lead certain things on our own, it gives us enough individuality to be able to feed that as well. And it just makes us grow bigger and faster and, you know, but definitely a fear. I mean, I just hug and grab on to God's plan for my life. And I pray and I hope that it looks like this because I love it. Pero si no, marica, o sea, hold on to whatever that plan is.
People ask me a lot of times about purpose, right? Because I think one of the biggest empty holes in people's lives is figuring out, like, what am I meant to do in this world, right? And it's an interesting question, and it's an interesting question to give advice on, right? Because the truth is, you know, you don't know the other person's purpose. As much as you want to give it and direct it, you really don't. Other than, I believe that it's just existing as a purpose, right? I believe that you came here to learn a lesson, and we're part of this ecosystem, and we're here to together create. What do you feel is your purpose?
Well, for us, the talk of purpose is like constant. It's like a constant drive. Our label's called Y Club Records. Our studios, like everything has to do with Y and putting purpose behind everything that we do, and that's what we try to kind of like inspire our fans to ask themselves that question of what they came here to do. And honestly, I feel like you could have more than one purpose, but I feel like my main thing is using my platform and using the platform that God's given me to give other people that have dreams that are just as valuable as mine are a chance. So if I have a possibility of giving them a platform and I don't know, using this producer in my song would guarantee that guy will have, if he's obviously taking into account the excellence behind everything that we do, but like giving somebody an opportunity that will change that person's life and be able to live off of music that they make, that feels like the thing that I was made to do. Create opportunities for people that want to live life through through their purpose. I feel like that's my main thing. And yeah.
Do you feel like in this journey that you've been living, obviously, coming from the family that you come from, finding your own identity within that family and really finding your own way and, getting married to Steph and now building your own family in your own way. What does it make you feel if I tell you, hey, Ricky, tomorrow, that's it. Music is done.
I feel like this has been what I've been doing my entire life. So I can't tell you that I know how to do anything else. So it's like so tied. And I'm not talking about, because if you told me, okay, what's done is the fact that your music won't be, like nobody will listen to your music anymore. Like you're back to 2016, or whatever. Well, I would say that I would still be doing music anyway. I would probably be like so many of my friends that are so much more talented than me, that they still do music for a living, but they struggle and they play at bars and they play it wherever they have a chance and they give them a chance and they're looking for opportunity. This for me it feels like such a part of who I am that you can take away if you tell me like, okay, Maui Ricky as a enterprise or my team and the people that are under my company and or my companies, all of that, if you could take it away, is that a fear? Of course you think about that and you're like, oh shit, like how much money does it cost to maintain this whole company a year? How much money do I have to make a year for the rest of my life to just maintain this? Oh, okay. All right, dope. Can we do that? I mean, yeah, I mean, we can do that, but I mean, I can't stop. Okay, we got to keep, like that. Sure is a fear, but thinking that I won't be doing music, I don't think that that's a possibility for me. I think I'd be doing music even if it wasn't giving me money, for sure. Like I did all those years before and living off of like a little advance here and somebody gave me this money for a production and that I know how lucky I am. And I pray that I'm able to live off of what I love my entire life. That's our biggest gift. But of course it's a fear. But again, it's about surrendering to God's plan. And if God's plan for you is like, fuck, you had Neon 16 for 15 fucking amazing years and then it became this other thing, or like, fuck, you had this band and then you made this other band, you're the Gorillas now. You never know what God's plan is, but I can't imagine. It's such a part of me that music is just the way I think, bro. I think everything that happens to me, I'm thinking in like, oh, that's a song. Oh, that's this. And you build the life around you. You have to build. Yo tengo unos vecinos, weón, que tienen una casa que es medieval. Like medieval house. Like they have like gárgolas and like, I'm like, you're walking by the house and you're like, who the fuck lives in this black house that has like el jorobado de Notre Dame? You think of like, you're like, who the fuck would live here? Another day I'm walking my dog, I'm passing by and these fucking people are outside with large gowns and drinking with a silver cup. And I'm like, these people have made the reality. They live in this movie.
Yeah.
And the reality is like, marica, yo vivo en esta vida medieval y ustedes son todos unos locos que andan en chores por ahí. Like, I want to create a reality for me where it's like fucking a musical, dog, in songs. Yeah. I'm constantly writing songs and I'm like, oof, and it's in the walls, brother. And it's like, ooh, this guitar has songs in them. That romanticism, I choose to live in that. Somebody could be like, oh, that's a piece of wood. That's nothing to it. But I choose to be like, oh, there's this guitar. I bought a guitar the other day. It's 85 years old. Me costó una pierna. But I'm thinking, bro, how many fucking songs have been written are in this wood? And I've written 6 songs and it's paid itself already. Pero lo que pienso es like, I was able to write those songs because they were in the wood. Eso, yo quiero vivir toda mi vida en ese mundo de fairy tale, donde que es la música. Can't imagine doing anything else.
I love that. I think those are the stories that are beautiful that we should be telling ourselves, because the truth is we do make our own reality, right? We live in the universe that we want to create. And we live the life that we want to create. We live the experience that we tell ourselves we're living. And that, I think, is such a powerful thing because it's something that we take for granted. We take for granted our actual ability and power to change the dynamic of how we see the world. And to me, there is the gold. There is the gold of life. The gold of life is that the Navy SEALs have this thing that says all the gods, all the devils, all the heavens, all the hells, all the gods, all the demons are within you. And I didn't understand that for such a long time. And I'm a big Navy SEAL guy. And I was like, I got to find this. And then when I met Don and Ish and I had this conversation with them, I said exactly that. You're the truest reflection of God. Like, it's not something you earn. It's not something you find. It's something you are. And your ability to create, their ability to understand your reality, the ability for someone to tell you it's impossible to fly, and then you go, here we are every day flying in a tin can. It's impossible to have electricity, and here we are in a set full of lights. Like, the notion that even color is a perspective, you know? Like this, we see it orange, but it's a perspective. Somebody might see it red.
No,
you know?
and we'll never know. Because we'll say it's orange and they've always seen it green.
That is the beauty of the power of you versus you, right? And to me, one of the things that I like to do as we're coming to the end of this podcast is we're our own worst enemies and we're our own best friends. And understanding what we've been talking about the whole podcast and what we just spoke about, the power of the words that we tell ourselves. So I like to end the podcast always saying, what is a sentence that you can say to yourself right now that will change the dynamic of how you see the rest of this week? Think about it. You're not saying it to me. You're not saying it to the people.
Okay.
You're saying it to yourself. This is one phrase that you're going to say to yourself and like the deep inside that will change how your mind and body process the rest of this week.
Okay. I got it. Do I say it? No.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think it's going to be, like I was saying before, I have this obsession about being unique and being different and setting myself apart from what everybody's doing and sometimes I find myself putting effort in that, where the truth is, to be the most unique or the most authentic, you should just let go of trying to do anything and just be your truest self, because your truest self is unique enough, you know, because we're all made different. So I think the phrase could be something like along the lines of being you is unique enough, you know?
Okay.
It could be good.
So now repeat that to just yourself.
Being you is unique enough. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy the power that word has?
Yeah.
For me it's okay to rest.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we feel that, especially when we're in the positions we're in, we feel like
Guilty to rest.
Yeah. And I generally this week need to rest.
Yeah,
you know, so I will say mine this week, it's okay to rest.
I was okay for me to rest yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday I took my Sunday off.
Oh, yeah, you had one of those.
I had a session at the end of the day that I called and I was like, guys, I gotta cancel it. And I canceled it and I spent whole day literally bed, beach, and watched the Oscars. And that's it.
Love that.
I needed it. I needed it. I feel so guilty. You know? You feel so guilty.
So I think, you know, in ending this podcast, there's some things that I think are really important. You know, one is watching the narrative, right? The filter of how we see things versus reality. I love the concept of what I spoke to you about. The difference between good and bad is really love versus fear. And 2 is and 3 is to continue to watch what we tell ourselves, because those are powerful. So, you know, I love what you said about being unique, and I'm going to deeply center myself in resting and being okay to rest. So with that, Ricky, thank you so much for being on You Versus You.
Appreciate you, man.
It's always fun when we get to hang out and talk, and I am sure that we will do a part 2, a part 3.
Let's go.
You know, but thank you for coming on board.
Thank you, bro.
This
Thank
has
you
been
for having
a hell of a
us,
ride.
for having me. It's the first time I say me. I never do interviews by myself. So it's like, thank you for having us. I always say thank you for having us, because it's always me and my brother, or me and my wife, or never by myself. Thank you for having me.
There you go.
Thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus You. Please subscribe, like, and share as we build this community and we help each other to live the life of our dreams.